It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when Darren Walters, a 20-year-old black boy, made his way to McDonald's. He had just finished a long training session at the local boxing gym, his favorite place to be. Darren was tall, muscular, and carried himself with a calm confidence that came from years of practice in the ring. Though his father, Chief Thomas Walters, was the head of the police in town, Darren never liked to use that to his advantage. He was a humble kid, focused on his dream of becoming a professional boxer. As he entered the McDonald's on Pine Street, Darren felt a sense of relief. All he wanted was a simple meal, something to fill him up after a hard day of training. The smell of fries and burgers filled the air, and the place was packed with customers. Darren quietly took his spot in line, waiting patiently. But as the minutes ticked by, something strange happened. One by one, customers who arrived after Darren were being served. At first, he didn't think much of it. Maybe my order's just taking longer, he thought. But after the fifth person got their food before him, despite arriving later, he felt a growing sense of frustration. Darren walked up to the counter where a young white cashier, Evans, stood. "Excuse me, I've been waiting for a while. Can you check on my order?" Darren asked, keeping his voice calm. Evans, however, didn't even bother looking up. "I'll get to you when I get to you," he muttered under his breath. Darren felt uneasy. He had seen this before, the subtle racism, the way some people treated him just because of the color of his skin. But today, it seemed worse. "I've been here for 20 minutes, Darren said, louder this time. "And people who came after me are getting served." Evans shot him a nasty look. "Maybe you should be more patient," he sneered, before turning his back to Darren. The room grew tense as people started whispering and glancing in Darren's direction. He wasn't the kind of person to lose his cool easily, but today something snapped. He slammed his hand on the counter. "This isn't right," he shouted. "You're ignoring me because of my skin color, aren't you?" The confrontation quickly drew attention. Evans, clearly uncomfortable, shouted back, "Get out of my face or I'll call the cops." But Darren wasn't backing down. He could feel the stares on his back, but he wasn't going to let this go. "Go ahead. Call them," he said, challenging Evans's threat. Without hesitation, Evans signaled to one of his coworkers to call the police. "Let's see what happens now," Evans said, smirking as if he knew the outcome already. Moments later, Officer Brett Sanders, a middle-aged cop with a reputation for being tough, arrived on the scene. He walked in, took one look at Darren, and immediately made assumptions. To him, Darren was just another troublemaker. "What's going on here?" Officer Sanders barked, stepping up to Darren. Before Darren could say a word, Evans jumped in. "He's causing trouble, refusing to leave." Officer Sanders looked at Darren, not interested in hearing his side. "I suggest you leave now before things get ugly," the cop said, gripping his baton. "I didn't do anything wrong," Darren replied. "I just asked why I haven't been served yet." Sanders wasn't having it. "Get out, or I'll make you leave." Darren stood his ground. He knew he hadn't done anything wrong, and he wasn't about to be bullied into leaving. "I'm not going anywhere," he said firmly. Without warning, Officer Sanders grabbed Darren by the arm, trying to force him toward the door. But Darren pulled back. "Let go of me," he shouted, frustration and anger boiling over. That's when things escalated. Officer Sanders swung his baton, hitting Darren hard in the ribs. The pain shot through his body, and without thinking, Darren reacted. His fist, strong and quick from years of boxing, connected with the officer's face. The punch was powerful, too powerful, causing Sanders to crumple to the floor, unconscious from the impact. The room fell silent. Darren stood there, his hands shaking as he looked down at the fallen officer. He hadn't meant to hit him that hard, but now there was no going back. Within minutes, the sound of police sirens filled the air. More officers stormed the McDonald's, surrounding Darren. He didn't resist as they cuffed him, but his mind raced with what was to come. Would they even listen to his side of the story? Or had they already made up their minds? As Darren was shoved into the back of a police car, he saw Evans standing at the door, smiling triumphantly. It was clear to Darren that the cashier had gotten exactly what he wanted, to make Darren look like the bad guy. But Darren wasn't alone in this. His father, Chief Walters, arrived at the scene minutes later. Word had spread quickly, and he wasn't going to let his son face the consequences of a one-sided story. After speaking to the other officers and reviewing the security footage, it became clear that Darren had acted in self-defense. The video showed Officer Sanders attacking first and Darren reacting only to defend himself. Chief Walters made sure the truth was known. "My son will not be punished for defending himself," he said firmly. "Justice will be served." By the end of the night, Darren was released, and Officer Sanders faced disciplinary action for his abuse of power. As for Evans, the racist cashier, his smug smile faded when he learned he'd been fired for his role in the incident. Darren walked out of the police station that night, his father by his side. Justice had been served, but Darren knew this was just one battle in a much larger fight. Still, he felt proud, not for the punch, but for standing up for what was right. And as he looked at the night sky, he promised himself one thing: no matter how hard life got, he would never stop fighting, both in and out of the ring. And this brings us to the end of this story. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, don't hesitate to like the video and share it with your friends too. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more fascinating stories. Have a nice day.